Hi guys, I'm just going to give this a moment here for this to populate so that people can have a moment to come in. I know it's late. It is Monday evening, June 28th, and today there was the Senate Public Health and Human Services Committee hearing in Mississippi, and they were discussing the possibility of a medical marijuana program. As many people in Mississippi know, that we are trying to discover a way, the legislature is trying to discover a way forward for us as a state to be able to give people access to cannabis or medical marijuana. The people voted on it, 74% of the people who did come out to vote did vote yes on that program. So I'm just going to go ahead and give my own personal feedback on this. Hi, Donnie. Thanks for coming in. If any of you guys have any questions or any personal feedback, feel free to type it in the chat box there. I am streaming this live on my personal page, on my Vicky for Mississippi page, and also on my YouTube channel. So if I'm responding to a comment and you don't see it because you're watching from a different channel, that's probably what's going on. So I will try to respond to people as I'm able to. So the beginning of the hearing started out with, I don't remember what the abbreviation stood for, NCSL. I didn't write it down. I know what it is. I've seen it a number of times. Basically, it's the southern states get together and they talk about legislation, and the lawmakers do, and they bounce things off of each other. And guys, if my sound sounds funny at all, please let me know, because I do have this issue between the two devices here. My computer should hopefully be fixed in the next 24 to 40 hours. I'm really hoping, so I can actually get my camera to work again. Anyway, so I digress on that topic. So there's this group of Southern lawmakers that come together, and in fact, their annual conference is being held in Nashville the same weekend that our state party is having our big event in Tunica. And we're blessed to have some state lawmakers actually will be coming out to talk to us in Tunica about the process in the legislature, why it's so hard to get bills out of committee, why it's so hard to get, good quality legislation passed that actually helps Mississippi families and individuals and businesses, instead of continuing to perpetuate harm upon Mississippians. What they're going to be talking to us about, what we can do to help them, and they're going to be talking to us, about their own personal experiences in the belly of the beast. And so they'll be out. I think we have them scheduled for a 3:00 panel. And if you would like to have any questions about that topic, please stay tuned to the Libertarian Party of Mississippi page or my own pages. There will be a link set aside for people to go put some questions in for that. So please don't just start, flooding us with questions for the panelists. We're going to put all that in one place so we can retrieve that easily. So the NCSL is a group of lawmakers that supports states, and they are often called upon by the legislatures, the various legislatures, and say, how do other states do this? How can we write these bills? So states like to look at other states and what they're doing to make a decision so they can figure out what they should be doing for themselves. And thank you, Matt, for putting that up there, bit.ly/BB, the two letters, and then the number 4, Liberty, for our Tunica event. So how can we accomplish these? How do other states do it? And in Mississippi, they really like to look at the surrounding states, especially, and see how they implement it, because for some reason they think that we need to copy the surrounding states. So that's why they had the NCSL out to compare. And I imagine that she probably sent a stack of information that was a little bit more than what she had in her PowerPoint that you might have seen if you were there, or if you're watching it on the video. But you can actually go to the Mississippi Legislature YouTube channel and you can watch the 2 hearings from today, the morning and the afternoon hearing. It is still on there. So she talked about the regulatory language, how other states have it set up. And I'm just going to step right out of the gate right here. And I'm going to say right now that I hate the word program. What do you think about when you hear program? Well, it's a set of rules, regulations, telling people what they can and cannot do. Um, the government, the government exists to protect our natural rights. And when we use the word program, medical marijuana program, yeah, we want to help with America. We want to discuss a medical marijuana program. Yeah, let's do it. Yay, yay, rah, 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 program, program, program. No, stop it, you guys. We can't talk about programs because when we allow them to program us, okay, well, you got program us mentality. And when we allow them to create the method with which we're allowed to consume a product, they're programming in our mind, just like it has been programmed for the last 100 years, that marijuana is bad, it's the devil's juice, or whatever it is. It's a program running in our minds and our unconscious and subconscious mind. And whether our conscious mind wants to make a different choice about that, we operate based off of what the subconscious, unconscious mind thinks based off of our experiences. It's like this Megatron thing playing in the back of our heads. And if you guys know me outside of the political realm and you watch my live streams about working with these subconscious, unconscious minds to delete those programs and remove them so that my clients can make different decisions. So they're no longer acting in life and reacting to life situations in that same manner. This is exactly what we're dealing with here. Do not allow them to create a program, because when you do that, they are telling you this is how it's going to be, and then we accept it. So a medical marijuana program is what they're trying to create for us. And we're looking at all these other states. What do the other states allow? And let's see here. Utah. She's talking about how Utah, no, I'm sorry. That was, I'm looking at my notes here, you guys. So here's one thing that she did say at the NCSL that really caught my attention. She said that when it's a medical marijuana program and it's just medical marijuana, that there might be more than one agency that will be instituted in order to create the program. So it's going to be the responsibility to carrying out the directives of the legislature is going to be spread across multiple agencies, and that's what we still see with the House Bill 116, whatever it is, that has been the Senate Senate amended version 1, I believe it is. And you see it spread out over the Department of Health, Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Revenue, spread over 3 different agencies. Now we know that, the different agencies have their own opinions about it. And certainly we heard that as Dr. Jennifer Bryan came and stood and represented the Department of Health. And even Thomas Dobbs tweeted today that Jennifer was there representing Department of Health. That means that her voice was echoing the sentiments of all hail the unelected bureaucrats. And do we really want our legislature, spreading this stuff out over all these agencies? And then these agencies have to communicate with each other. Now, if you've ever been involved in government, like federal or state government in any direction, like my parents, they both retired from the General Services Administration, the GSA, federal government agency. And my mom was a procurement. Okay. She was in purchasing, and she would complain and just talk about the problems working, with other agencies and having to work in the red tape and everything that has to go on. Do we really want the citizens in Mississippi to be constrained to red tape, unelected bureaucrats, and people having to depend on the interagency communications? I mean, we know that the VA, we have enough problem with the Veterans Administration and the communication between them and doctors and states, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're going to ask for, with our medical situation and our choice, and we're asking that to be put upon multiple agencies. So the NCSL, she talked about how if it's just a medical marijuana program, the states have it spread among multiple agencies. But she did say something interesting. She said that when we have adult use added, so that's like legalization, adults being able to consume recreationally, that it's typically given to just one organization, and the Department of Health doesn't have a role in it. Think about that. We know that the Department of Health was already protesting having an involvement in a medical marijuana program when ballot initiative 65 was created. And as it was being signed and as it was on the ballot and, all of the language, Senator Blackwell's bill continued to allow them in it, but a different role for them. And even from the testimony today from Dr. Brian and I think it was Hamilton, I have their names over here somewhere. I want to make sure I say it right. In just a second. I gotta say their names right because I'm a stickler for that. Hamilton, Dr. Hamilton. I could hear in their voices and the way that they were communicating that they want there to be the opportunity for people to be able to have access to research, the doctors, and it sounded to me like they really were desperate for the federal government to remove the red tape, to remove the obstacles from them to be able to create research, quality research. There's already been studies on CBD, and those experts are, they are advising other countries, and they're right here in America. And they've been studying, certain attributes of the plant. They can't study the whole plant. They can study chemical compounds within the plant that's separated, but they can't study the plant as a whole because, thank you, pop government. So Department of Health wouldn't, they're saying that the Department of Health typically just plays this education role when we talk about adult use and allowing it in there. And I thought that was very interesting. And they already do that. We hear them talking about, even from the stand today, Dr. Bryan, she was, spewing the information about, alcohol and tobacco and other substances. Yeah. So they like to educate the public. They do. And if that makes them feel good, let them have that. I don't think they want the regulatory burden. I don't think they want to regulate it. I don't think they want the responsibility of that. So one thing that I found interesting was the gentleman from Utah, when he was talking about, they were looking at Colorado, and they didn't like how a lot of doctors were able to have a lot of patients. And I think the number was something like 80%. And there were a handful of doctors that were writing 80% of the medical marijuana prescriptions. My response to that is the free market. Free the market. If a doctor wants to do that, and if there's harm being caused to a patient, the patient has recourse to sue. But if a doctor wants to sell that much and make his business that way, why not? What prevents someone else? And it sounded like there was, I don't know, I haven't researched Colorado, but he's saying we don't like that. We didn't like that there were just a handful of doctors that were doing all of this. So Utah, to sum it up, it's a whole lot of restrictions, and they have a whole lot of caps on people. They free the market. They have a cap on licenses for like pharmacies. They don't have a cap on the processors, but they have a cap on the processing. They said that they had to change their law after a little bit, and they said a doctor can have up to 15 patients that have a medical marijuana card without them becoming a qualified practitioner. 15 patients, 25 patients, 50 patients, 1,000 patients having medical marijuana cards. Why does it matter if they have 15 or 16 patients that they have to be watched by the state? Again, free the market, free healthcare. Let me say that a different way so you understand it. Free up healthcare. See, we think that the government has to tell us how healthcare should be, how our doctors should act toward us. Do some research. The American Medical Association started because of these things called mutual aid societies, because they didn't like that groups of people were coming together and pulling their money together and hiring one doctor that they could have discounted rates or not have to pay a rate at all. And the doctors were competing for being involved in these mutual aid societies. Oh, so we have to put constraints on that. We need to, so then the American Medical Association came out and they decided how many doctors are allowed to go to medical school. Well, then, when it comes to economics, when you have fewer socks available, and there's more people who want to buy your socks, well, price of the socks are going to go up. Just like doctors, right? It's called supply and demand. So they're creating the supply and demand. They're creating, with their suggestions to our lawmakers, the increase on the cost of our health care. Chew on that. Do we really need the American Medical Association telling our lawmakers how to have a public health policy when it should be between a patient and their doctor? I appreciate that we have senators and representatives who are trying to take great care in making these decisions. Because like I said about 12 minutes ago, we have these things called filters, subconscious, unconscious mind, things, programs running in our own minds that we're just, sometimes this is some cognitive dissonance and it's really hard for us to get through. And so our elected senators and representatives are dealing with their own personal filters, whether they be religious or personal family experiences, or things that they've been taught in school, et cetera, et cetera. But if we look back 100, 120, 130 years ago, when there were no caps or restrictions or regulations on this plant, how did society survive? Oh my. Free market? Quite a concept there. So let's see here. We're looking at, let's see here. I'm looking at my notes here. One of the things that the representative from Oklahoma said that you're always going to have cannabis legislation. Once you go down this path, you're always going to have to deal with it. Solution? Why don't you just open it up, free the market, and allow people to grow their own? No caps on THC, no caps on plant growth, no restrictions. If I make a sports drink, or if I want to open a convenience store, I pay my $50 fee to the Secretary of State, open the doors after I've gotten everything set up, and I'm able to hit the ground running. It's on me if I fail or succeed, right? If the state is going to insist on having a program and dictating to us how we're going to operate this thing. Yeah, there's always going to be something they have to go back and tweak and fix a little bit here and there. Just let it go. Let us thrive on our own. Can Mississippi set the example for the rest of the nation for one time? I know there's a lot of fear surrounding the unknown because, again, it's been about 100 years. There's not a whole lot of people living in Mississippi that are 100 years old who could probably tell you the story about the time when it wasn't illegal. I'm sure if you went into the nursing homes and you heard from some of the individuals in there, as do some of our sitting lawmakers, when can I smoke some cannabis? Why isn't it legal yet? They're hearing that from our elderly in the nursing homes. Do you think maybe they enjoyed it or partook in it in their youth? They remember a time when it really was no big deal, but a few people said it was a big deal. Conspiracy theories, we're not even going to go down that road. Fact is, a few people made a decision for whatever reason, and now it's become a moral imperative or a biblical imperative or a religious imperative to not allow it to happen, that people can make this choice for themselves, because this is the filter that we deal with, and it's scary. It's really scary. But sometimes we just have to look that fear straight on and say, you know what? I see you. I see your trick. Your fear, and what happens when you're in fear, you're frozen and you can't move. You're frozen in place. And that's what this is right here. This fear of the unknown, the fear, we know what we want on the other side. And I really believe in my heart of hearts that even those who would have voted for the 74% who voted for 65, but yet are those individuals who might be saying, but I didn't vote for legalization or recreation or whatever, but I voted for this. I really believe in my heart of hearts that they're good, genuine people, and that they care and love their neighbors, and that they don't want to see their neighbors harmed. Yes, let's allow them to have medical. But there's this fear preventing them from fully getting on the other side of that wall, of allowing people to really be free. And when we're in fear and we're responding to fear, we're frozen and we can't move. You just got to take that step and just allow it to happen. So there were some things that Dr. Bryan, was saying, Dr. Jennifer Bryan. And one of the things that stood out to me first was she just comes out of the gate talking about how to have caps. And NCSL just got done saying that the states typically don't have caps or restrictions, limitations, with the exception maybe of like number of plants to be grown. There's not really caps and limitations on like. She didn't go into detail, but that's what she said. When you look at the average across, the states that have created this program. But Jennifer Ryan, she stands up there and she said, all these other states, and she said, my mom and my daddy always told me that, you don't follow everybody off the bridge. This is Mississippi, and we got to take care of Mississippi here. Well, last time I checked, honey, we're all human. We all live in this human body. And just like all of the other people who live in the same human type of bodies all across this country have the same system, the same blood rolling through their veins. Let's be real. People in Mississippi are hurting. And just because you're scared or because you've read one study, she quoted one study, yeah. Just because you quoted one study, which said something, she called it, like, she referred to it, she didn't say it specifically, but the language used surrounding it was insinuating addiction. Yeah, let's not go there. Habitual use, 1 in 10, 10%. Now, if you listen to the statistics from the I think it's a National Addiction Center. I don't remember exactly anymore the name of the organization off the top of my head. Forgive me, please. But they say that any substance has an average 1 in 10 addiction rate or habitual use rate or whatever it's going to be, making a habit of something. How is that any different than alcohol or sugar? Right? We talk about increased risk of potential harm to a person, and yet we still allow these other things to be used because people. Yeah, I was about to go on the rabbit trail, but I just stopped myself there. There was a warning that somebody put out there. The representative from Oklahoma, he did say something about protecting our rural areas with regard to agricultural grows, and then other people coming in and doing a lot of growth in there. Again, why, where in the government's roles and responsibility is it ever their responsibility to infringe upon someone's natural right to produce? I get it and I understand where sometimes, you've got these big corporate farms that are coming in. I mean, look at Bill Gates, doing all the crap that he's doing and, snatching up all this land so they can do things. That's a different story. Maybe it isn't. Is that what the representative from Oklahoma was referring to? I don't know. But when you've got families with 10 acres, 20 acres, 100 acres, 200, 300, 400 acres just sitting there, or, I know a number of people in my own county here in Clay County who have inherited land and it just sits. And what if they wanted to create a legacy for their own children or for, why are we preventing them from the ability to access that? It should never be our determination for another individual. It's their natural right to pursue that as long as they're not harming others. One thing with the PSA, I think it's the socialist something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but or the green, maybe it's the new Green South, for the whatever. One of their things that I would say I'd have to agree with, to a degree, is they talk about corporations that have harmed the environment and they want restitution for that. I agree. Corporations should not be given an out just because they've harmed the environment, just because they're big. Absolutely not. They need to be held accountable. We can stand with people on issues that we agree on. Roll Tide. I said it. Okay, I'm just reading the comment. Yeah, I won't go any further on that when it comes to ball themes. Let's see here. So something that another aspect of the conversation today was I found interesting, and I'm not quite sure where the senators and the senators were going with this. I think it was Wiggins who was I hope I had the name right there, who was the one was primarily questioning Hamilton and Bryan about the FDA and the regulation and substance, et cetera, scheduling of the substances. And they continued to hammer in about how we can't study this because the FDA. But see what Bryan was saying at the beginning was, we can't call it, it's not a medicine. Well, of course it's not a medicine. Shout out to Cyber Offense. If you need your security taken care of, check out Cyber Offense. Of course, we cannot call it a medicine. Ah! The FDA will throw you in jail if you do. She's saying, I can never call it a medicine. Well, no, you can't. So that is the way that, you know, Dobbs and all of these public health agencies get around this, saying that, well, we can't tell that it's going to help a body or help these, you know, problems, et cetera, because it's not a medicine. And then Hamilton talks about, well, there's two things that make it a Schedule 1 substance: if it doesn't have any medicinal value, or if it doesn't have or if it's what is it, if it's most abusive substance, has a high potential for substance abuse. Well, marijuana doesn't have a high potential for substance abuse. What's the definition of substance abuse? You know, like addiction. Okay. No legitimate medical benefits. Well, of course it doesn't have it, because we can't freaking study it to find out if it does, under the FDA's own rules. Hello. And you know, Wiggins, I think it was. I don't think it was Hopkins. He was no, it wasn't Wiggins. I think it was Hopkins. Call some of these senators. I'm so sorry if you're watching this and I get your names mixed up. But they were doing a really, really good job with asking some questions about, you know, it being a Schedule 1, why can't we study it, etc. And it felt like they were leading questions, trying to help the others within the committee and the public to understand why we're going to go ahead and move forward with a medical marijuana program, to poke holes in the problems that we have. And you know, because he's like, well, 30 other states are doing this, why aren't we just moving forward with this? You know, so it really felt to me like they're ready to just, you know, they see the shenanigans, they see the problem that the federal government has created for us, and that something needs to be done. You know, they're hearing the testimonies, they're hearing the stories of the individuals who have been able to have relief in their own personal lives for reasons unknown to us, because it cannot be studied. But they've gained relief. They have been able to enjoy their life. They've been able to live their life more. Their body, for some reason, has started this process of self-healing. But we don't know why, because we can't study it, because it doesn't have any medicinal value. So it's a Schedule 1 substance. But people's bodies are starting to heal themselves. So the plant isn't, because it's not a medicine. Only medicines are allowed to heal, according to the FDA. Only medicines are allowed to create changes within the body system, according to the FDA. So it's not the plant healing, but the body is healing itself as a result of somebody introducing something new into their daily regimen. And our senators and our representatives are hearing that. Unfortunately, they want to create a program. No program. Just let people be and let them discuss with their doctors. The medical association should have no input in this. And another potential harm is, if the medical association has input into this, it's going to prevent doctors from maybe even accessing all of the information, the whole host of information. I mean, in some states, they might be able to apply the research and the data to their practice, whereas in Mississippi, because our Department of Health does this and says, no, we don't like it that way, because we haven't studied it enough or approved of it enough. So we're going to prevent your patients from having access to it that way, even though in Alabama or Tennessee or Louisiana, they might be able to. But no. We don't like it that way. So we're going to, you know, we're going to put some chains on you. It does not benefit the citizens of our state, or any state for that matter, for unelected bureaucrats who never study your individual body system to see at the microcosmic level what your body might need. And there are CBD experts who do that. Amazingly enough, I mean, they've got this. There's even people developing nanotechnology with this product. I mean, how does it get any better than that? Yes, I'm throwing that in there. So, abuse potential, I already addressed that. Brian said that, all these people are very emotional. I can understand why they would, talk about some of these things, because one of the senators asked Brian, why is it that constituents will say to us that cannabis does blah, 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 blah for me, but the doctors really don't know about it? She said, well, they're very emotional. I can certainly understand that. She really couldn't answer for the doctors, and I really appreciate her saying that, because every doctor is their own person. She did make sure to say that, tied in a little bit about the lack of study thing, but that's really where it's at. And the senators and representatives really need, and even our law enforcement, as they're, listening to this and talking in the ears to the lawmakers, our medical personnel don't necessarily know it because it's a science that they're not taught in medical school. Why not? Oh, wait, couldn't be studied. Thank you, government. Yeah. So we're going to suck, aren't we? It's kind of like that Affordable Care Act, right? We're going to sign it and pass it and sign it, and then we'll see what's in it. Well, this is maybe one of those times that we should consider having the attitude about it, right? Let's just open it wide up, and we're going to figure out how this plant helps us. Because we've never been able to do it. Medical schools didn't study the plant like with the technology, because if you talk to a doctor, if you go through medical school, your medical books are going to talk about the studies of plants and programs and body systems according to the studies that they've been allowed to study because of the American Medical Association's relationship with the FDA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because they've been allowed to. They've been given permission to, so that's what they're allowed to know. So, of course, the doctors don't know all of it, and they don't take the time to learn it necessarily. Some doctors do, and it's a small handful of them. But yeah, even then, their hands are tied. And like Riley, the story of Riley, who had to move out of state and can't come back to her home state of Mississippi. She was given a recommendation of dosage by a doctor because of the studies that the doctors had done at this hospital. Because they studied it. They were able to recommend something. The parents were able to make the choice for their child. That's freedom. That's free healthcare. They're worried about if we have a lot of dispensaries. Well, let's talk about supply and demand again, right? Because Senator McMahon asked Cash, I don't remember his last name, he owns a CBD store out of Lee County. And he asked them, how much in the black market would maybe some marijuana be sold in Mississippi? I don't know, maybe $250 a gram or something like that. He also asked them, asked him about dispensaries, or the ability for people to have access to it. And he's like, well, I don't think we need to have one on every street corner. Well, why not? Let's free the market, increase the supply. The demand is there for it, and the price will go down, and more people will have access to it with their wallet. More jobs will be created, more opportunity for growth. How does it get any better than that? He was also asked a question that really his response, it got under my skin. His response was almost worse for me than the word program. And so McMahon asked them about a fair amount for a licensing fee for somebody who wants to get into it. And he's like, so you put your own money into it. And he said, yeah, I've had to raise my own capital at $100,000, blah, blah, blah. I am going to go there and I'm going to say it. 2 words that, okay, you guys ready? So some of you might kind of get your panties in a wad over this. I'm going to say 2 words. Some of you might not like it, but it's real. It's called systemic racism. Okay, I said it. It's a real thing. Okay? It's real. I'm going to say it one more time. You ready? Systemic racism. Yeah. So this gentleman had access to capital, but today we still have individuals in minority communities who do not have as easy access to capital to be able to build that up for themselves. Now, some individuals in minority communities might have family wealth that they can have access to be able to create wealth for themselves to as starter and seed money. This gentleman was asked, how much do you feel is a good amount for, licensing fee, et cetera, or registration, blah, blah, blah. Well, if I'm going to go and I want to open up a business and register with the Secretary of State, and it's not a cannabis business, I just have to pay my fee of $50 or whatever it is to the Secretary of State's office. Now, I do not like licensing and registration, occupational licensing. We're going to have to pay $250 every year, blah, 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 blah. No. I don't even accept that. And if you ask any libertarian, they're not going to accept it either. Free the market. Yeah. So he said, $25,000. That's fair. What? $25,000? Well, yeah, you might have been able to afford that. And then McMahon went on to ask him, every year? Yeah, every year. What? Honey. That statement right there, you just pushed out hundreds and hundreds of people with the potential to be able to create wealth for them, their families, and their posterity for generations. Not only that, but you've also prevented access to the market for individuals who might want to consume that. Because myself, if it was legal home grow, no cap, etc., I ain't gonna be growing. I don't even want the plant. But if there was somebody in my family who could possibly benefit from it someday for whatever reason, I'm still not going to grow it. I don't have the time. And I only really seem to be able to grow pepper plants well, and that's about it. Don't know why, but that's me. I'm going to go buy it from somebody else. Yeah. It'd be amazing if I didn't have to pay $200-$300 for it. Absolutely amazing. But if you're going to prevent the number of people to be able to sell it, that's not going to be a possibility. So these are pretty much my reflections from today. At the end of the day, it comes down to, well, no, I'm going to say one more thing. Law enforcement. So if we have a program, if they're telling us how we have to live, law enforcement's going to pull you over. And we heard about I think it was Utah, who only pharmacies can sell it. Please. And then if people get pulled over, it's going to be in a certain container with a certain expiration date on it. And the law enforcement agencies have you in a system that you have a medical card. Is that a HIPAA violation? I don't know. So you've got permission because you have your stuff in a canister with a certain date on it, and it's good. Okay. Who's to say that those instances won't increase the risk of harm for individuals to be harmed, to be hurt by these law enforcement officers because men and women with pens and good intentions decided to dictate for us how we can have access to our own health care. And so you get pulled over. And it might escalate because somebody had a bad day, either the person that got pulled over or the officer or officers. So if the government decides they want to tell us how to live our lives and how much we can consume and how in what manner and method we're allowed to consume it, even though our doctors that we work with say that this might work better for your body than that, but oh god, this state says you can't, so screw it. Guess you can't have it. Well, okay. We need, drum roll, yes, we do need to have a section in there that would end qualified immunity. Absolutely. If the state is going to insist that they dictate to us how we're going to live our lives and how we're going to have access to any kind of form of medicine, yes, I use the word medicine, even though you can't call it medicine right now. So I shouldn't have said that. But any kind of plant that might bring you relief and help your body to start on a process that, unbeknownst to us for some reason, we don't know because we can't study it, is starting to heal itself. We need to end qualified immunity because you're just increasing the risk of harm. We need to end qualified immunity regardless. But this is an opportunity to do that. And then while you're at it, let's go ahead and release nonviolent prisoners from jail who are in prison for possession. And I don't care about the freaking 3 strikes law. You can cut that out while you're at it. Dean Barnhart, what was the hearing on? Sorry, just joined. Thank you for asking. So today the Public Health Services Committee, I know I got that name wrong, was having a hearing on medical marijuana. And they had some experts. They had, I think it was Amy Smoot came in as a patient advocate and told 3 very moving stories. And then Cash King, I think it was. No, Mark Cash. He has a CBD dispensary in Lee County, was brought in by McMahon. And, he answered some questions and told some stories about even some of the people who come to his store. He doesn't sell CBD, but cannabis because it's not legal to, but he was able to, share the story of how even like the CBD found within hemp has helped. And, he said his opinion about something. He's not a medical doctor. He can't, make any statements as to whether or not it's, accurate or true, and he understood that. But overall, the state needs to leave us alone. Needs to leave us alone. Period. Leave us alone. I will sing that song till the day I die. Because the 176 elected officials don't live in my shoes. They don't live in my house. They don't have my kids. They don't have the experiences that I have to experience on a day-to-day basis, and the laws that they write might impact me in a certain way, but my neighbor in a different way when they're trying to control me and my neighborhood and my state. But yeah, T. Barnhart, you're so funny. This is what he says. He says, breach, leave us alone. I was actually kind of muttering that today as I sat there in the hearing, and there was a representative sitting next to me. He was kind of giggling. He's like, yep, leave us alone. We just want to live, right? But the legislature wants to tell us how to live. They have good intentions. And I know that they're hearing from their evangelical constituency. But we don't live in a theocracy. Last time I checked, there are over 20,000 Christian denominations. And if Christians are telling their lawmakers, I'm a Christian and I don't think blah, blah, blah. Well, okay. So you're speaking on behalf of the brand and style of Christianity that you have, but what about the brand and style of Christianity over there that might not necessarily agree with you? Yeah, so our lawmakers are took an oath to uphold the Constitution. And if they interpret that as to uphold their Christian faith within the Constitution, we've got a problem. They took an oath to uphold the state and the United States Constitution. And what does that involve? That involves protecting your and my and their own natural rights. The rights that they have when they come out of the womb without being impaired by anybody putting any restrictions on them, as long as they are not harming another person. And if they harm another person, that's when you deal with the problem. Corporations are dumping pollutants everywhere. That's when you deal with the problem. Somebody runs over somebody, that's when you deal with the problem. Now, I'm going to say that, when it comes to driving impaired, there are some times that there are some things where there is a significant risk of harm. So driving while intoxicated is a significant risk of harm, but the breathalyzer tests aren't always accurate from one person to the next. And so again, let's end qualified immunity. Which of the state legislatures is the main stick in the mud? Okay, so we're talking about Mississippi here. So I'm thinking that Mr. Barnhart is asking which one seems to possibly be the biggest hurdle as far as individuals. There are multiple theories on that, and I'm not going to name any names specifically right now because everybody has an opinion. And one day it might be this senator or the lieutenant governor or the governor or this representative. And it's based off of someone else's conversation with them in the past or that day and the feeling that a person gets from them. Unless they're saying, unequivocally no without a shadow of a doubt. And this is a situation where I think, when the senators today were asking the very strategic questions of Dr. Bryan and Dr. Hamilton about the scheduling of the substance and the involvement with the FDA and their role in it and the federal government and how all of that trickles down to the various states. And I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. So they were asking these questions. And so I really, really believe that many people within our legislative body in Mississippi are having that 180, or they might be 90 degrees there and they don't know if they're going to go back to the zero or they're going to go all the way to that 180, right? Or they're at 45 or they're a little over 90. And they're trying to do right by the people. They really are. And they're trying to figure out the best way to do it. They hear you guys. They hear all of us. They see the same results from the election that said 74% of the people want to change in policy. When it comes to our law enforcement, the best thing that we could do is to open this wide up and say, let's just remove the restrictions completely and altogether. I do hear some sheriffs saying that, there's increase of crime if you talk to people in Colorado. But then if you sit down and you talk to the sheriffs in Colorado, you're not talking to a sheriff in Mississippi who knows what they're saying at. I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail. Or even the highway patrol, they would be saying, the same thing too. DAs, some of the district attorneys, be saying the same thing. Some of the police chiefs are saying the thing is bad, it's bad, it's bad. Look at these other states where they legalize, it's bad, it's bad. But if you actually take the time to listen to the law enforcement officers themselves and go and talk to themselves, it's not. The changes in the crime rates, etc., that we're hearing from law enforcement in Mississippi, it's not what you're hearing coming from the ground in the various states where they've opened up recreational. If you're going to complain about kids having access to it, how many kids already have access to it? How many, even 50, 60 years ago, 40, 30 years ago, kids were having access to it? I know adults today who had access to it as a youth, and they don't even want to consume it today. Everybody should have that choice. I'm not Karen, because I was thinking of Catherine Panel. No, Dr. Brian said that they're compassionate. I believe her. I believe that, the Department of Health sees people hurting and they want to change. They're so used to telling people, and they think it's okay. And they're so used to telling people how to do things. We have to change our language, you guys. We do. We have to change the way that we talk to and relate to them instead of giving it to them. We have to remember that we are the power. You are the power. The ball is in your court. You're letting the ball be in their court if you let them control the language. But there's a method to it too, though. It's not speaking unkindly to them. How would you want to be spoken to? Do you shut down and tune everybody out when they start yelling at you or calling you names? They're having a human experience just like you are. So don't be very surprised if they start ignoring you and being unwilling to work with you if you're hostile toward them. Calling them names and throwing out accusations. I believe people really want what's best, but we just all have a different way of getting there. And the different way of getting there is based on our experiences, personal experiences, and our filters. And the people that we surround ourselves with and the language that they use also. Got another comment here. I feel really discouraged here in Kentucky for legalization. Kentucky still has 40 dry counties. Dean, Mississippi just last year officially became a wet state. I haven't done the research yet, so to see how many cities and counties are opened up because of that. But I feel your pain. There's a lot of states that still have the Alcohol and Bureau, the ABC Commission, and everything goes through them. Again, that is Papa government telling us how we have to live, because it's a tradition and it's just the way things have been done. We can live freely without being given permission or asking for permission. How many of you grow up and eventually leave the nest and still go back to your mama and daddy and ask for permission? Didn't think so. And we have Matt here commenting, they are people too. Yes. He's referring to what I was saying a moment ago about The lawmakers, the unelected bureaucrats that sit at the Department of Health, Department of Agriculture, Representative Andy Gibson is elected, but the people who work for him are not. He oversees a commission full of people, and you're not necessarily going to talk to the commissioner, but you're going to talk to people who work for him. Same with the SOS, AG's office, Transportation Commissioner's office, now Highway Patrol, Department of Public Safety. That's a different story. They're not elected, but they're still people. Love goes a lot farther than anger. It absolutely does. It really does. So when you're talking to your representative and your senator, speak with them with loving kindness and listen to them. Ask them questions. They want to have a conversation. They want to hear from you. They do. But they also want you to hear from them. Your representative and senator, they want you to know why they do the things they do. We need to do more dialogue and more listening. There's a time for giving information. And when the senator asked Dr. Bryan why people will say that doctors don't know anything, and my very passionate constituents will say that cannabis helps them, or CBD or hemp or whatever it is helps them, but doctors just don't know about it. If you're having that conversation with your lawmaker, I would like to suggest that you let your senator or your representative know. Why? Senator or Representative so-and-so, are you aware that the Federal Drug Administration does not allow the entire plant to be studied in and of itself? Well, yes, I did know that. Or know it. Well, kind of know about a little bit about it. Well, because that is true, and it has been true for decades, Senator or Representative so-and-so, my doctors were never educated during their medical school about this plant and how it could have an impact on the body. And they have patients that they have to see to on a daily basis, and they have very busy practices. And it's enough for them to just keep up on the regulations that you continue to create for them, or the federal government might create for them, with whether it be with health insurance laws, or any other types of red tape that you're putting them through, or taxes and Medicare and Medicaid stuff, all the stuff that they have to keep up with every day. They already went to medical school. They didn't have an opportunity to go through a class to learn about CBD and CBG, or, well, heavens, they couldn't even learn about the whole plant, the whole cannabis plant, because it's not even available to learn about, because the government hasn't even allowed that to be studied. So Senator or Representative so-and-so, when I tell you that I've been consuming this plant for decades, or months or weeks or whatever it is, and I have experienced relief where my body started to heal itself amazingly, I don't know why, and my doctor doesn't even know why, because he can't study it. I'm not saying my doctor is dumb and my doctor doesn't care. I'm not saying that my doctor is pulling the wool over your eyes, or whatever. But they truly don't have the education about it, because they don't have access to the education. So, representative or senator, by doing this, you're also helping the doctors to have access eventually down the road to an education, because when 30 to 40 states start to move in a certain direction, bam, 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 historically, the federal government responds in kind. So we're starting to hear and see articles come out about more and more people talking about the federal government is acknowledging that we shouldn't have any restrictions and that marijuana shouldn't even be scheduled. And the day that that happens, because it is coming, it would be a great benefit, not just to America, but to the whole world. Because if you study the history of the war for drugs, it started in America with America going around the world threatening other countries financial aid unless you got on board. And I'm going to go to my own work when I talk about my healing work. Healing one soul at a time heals the rest of the world because we're all connected. When we allow it to open up, we allow the vibration to be changed in our bodies, in our physical bodies, in our energy bodies. We allow that to happen around the world. So many people are going to be experiencing relief. And because science has gotten to a point where it wasn't 100 years ago, and we see the development of technology at such magnificent rates, exponentially expounding upon one data point to the next, the next, the next, the next. People today are going to have access to so much more than they did even 80 years ago, 100 years ago, when there were no restrictions on it. Open it up. Leave us alone. Let us explore. Some people will say to me sometimes when I'm doing work with them, like, the sky is the limit. No, it's not. Stop it. Stop saying that. There are no limits. When you say the sky is a limit, you just limited yourself, sweetie. There are no limits. The only limitations are right there and right there. What you speak, what you think. So, thank you guys for watching tonight. I know it got a little bit, more broad than the topic that I had put out there, broader than the topic I put out there. And, but I enjoyed the interaction here. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you did, this whole live stream. And if there's any portion of it, if that you liked, and this is also being streamed on YouTube. So if you know people that are not on Facebook, go to my YouTube channel, Vicki Rose for Mississippi. I think it's Vicki Rose first, Vicki for Mississippi. I don't know. Anyway, I'll put the link to the YouTube in both of the comments here on my personal wall and on my public figure page. And feel free to drop the segment point to whoever you need to. So you guys have a good night. Have a good week. And don't forget, July 9th through 11th, Tunica, Mississippi. It's going to be such an amazing time getting to meet all of you and talking to each other and networking with each other. Friday evening, Friday afternoon, late afternoon on the 5th, on the 9th in Hernando at 5 p.m. We will be having a rally. Location, I should be getting the next day or two here, and I'll be announcing that. We're working with We Are the 74 for that. Spike Cohen, Adam Kokesh, J. Mara Jane will be out there to speak also. And if you're coming to the Tunica rally, if you're staying at the Horseshoe Resort Casino and Hotel, there is a reception for our sponsors of our speakers, and there are still tickets available for sponsor packages for that, just not for business sponsor, but individual sponsor packages. Business sponsor packages have closed now, and that's $500 or $1,000. And excuse me, my nose is itching there. So that means at 8 p.m. that reception will be held in one of the meeting rooms at the Horseshoe Resort Casino and Hotel. There are other hotels in the area that you can look into. And then on Saturday, our event kicks off. Registration starts at 9 a.m. $15 in advance, bit.ly/BB for Liberty. I'll go ahead and put that up here. And that event starts at 10 a.m. And our first speaker will be Cole Ebel, who is a city councilman out of Carthage, Tennessee, and he has some amazing stories to tell. The event is called Breaking Boundaries for Liberty. So our speakers will be talking about their unique ways, or ways in which we should be working to break boundaries for liberty, whether it be us coming together, because this is breaking boundaries. We're breaking the boundaries of our mindset of saying, no, you're this, no, you're that, you're Republican, you're Democrat, you're independent, you're libertarian, no, you're atheist, no, you're whatever. We're breaking down those walls, breaking down those boundaries that prevent us from being able to work together for the good of all humanity, for the good of Mississippians, or wherever it is that you reside and you're coming to as you come to this event. And oh, I just got a note here that we will still take sponsors. So quickly find us. We can still take some sponsors in. We haven't ordered the final products yet, so please let us know. We can get those sponsors in. You'll get a private reception with Spike Cohen, Jimmy Smith, who is a former Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver. He's nominated for the Hall of Fame. He will be one of our speakers on Saturday. And Adam Kukesh and the other speakers that will be in attendance at that time. And then Saturday, so Saturday 10 a.m. starts with Cole Ebel. He'll be talking about his challenges being a libertarian councilman, and the challenges he's faced on his board trying to present resolutions and being asked to leave the meetings as a result. Hopefully, Mississippi's only elected libertarian, Steve McCluskey, will be in the house. He's still kind of saying, well, I'll see if I can get there or not. But he has some amazing stories to tell about his first term as mayor for McLean, Mississippi, and what he's been able to achieve without raising taxes for people there. And he was reelected on June 8th. Unfortunately, because of our state election laws, he is not labeled an L libertarian on the ballot. So, but he is a libertarian. He is recognized by your state legislature as Mississippi's libertarian mayor. Love Steve, he's a great man. We've got health freedom fighters there. We've got the panel, the legislative panel coming up. We've got Jimmy Smith. There's just so much stuff happening. We have breakout rooms also with people. We are the 74. We'll have time on the stage. Also, Donnie Collins will be up there talking to us about, their work and what they're doing. And we have some vendors that will be out there that are really fun. We have a fun vendor who sells these very unique tumblers. Matt, if you can put their website up in the comments, if you know it off the top because you're watching, please drop that in and I'll pull it up on the screen here. We've got Double Tap Coffee as a sponsor. We've got, I can't remember the name, but there's a TV store in Tate County who is contributing a 43-inch smart TV for our raffle. We have a number of other items for our raffle, and items are still coming in for the raffle. We have Adam Kukesh's book Freedom that has been donated to our event. Also 150 copies available for those for the first 150 people through the doors. He wrote it while he was in prison. Why did he go to prison? Because he was standing in front of the state capitol and doing a live stream and he cocked a gun. So he went to prison. And he went to prison another time for dancing in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Yeah. I don't know. Who did he hurt? Okay. McCrary Furniture in Senatobia is a sponsor who is contributing the TV. So if you're up in that area, make sure to check out McCrary Furniture. I'm still waiting on the name of the sponsor that's got the tumblers out of Orlando, coming all the way from Orlando, Florida, to have a table for us. We also have Jimmy Smith is repping Leaf River Extraction out of Prentice, Mississippi. They just acquired a 72,000 square foot manufacturing facility where they are going to be growing hemp for producing hemp for not just for the manufacture of products for health, but also potentially for producing that product for like industrial use. So So that's really exciting for Mississippi. Okay, so here is the defythepower.com. That's where you want to go to check out our unique vendor. We also have cybersecurity as a cybersecurity business called Cyber Offense that will be in the house, and they will be doing a discussion in the breakout room about the importance of cybersecurity when it comes to our nation's infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's what they said they were going to be talking about. But and the importance of why you need to make sure that you are secure even in your own personal capacity, and maybe we have some tips that way. And some recognition there for Mr. McAfee, who we unfortunately received the news of his death while he was right after he got the news of being extradited. I know I'm forgetting some sponsors. Oh, we've got the Cajun Libertarian there. He will be the MC on stage. We've got Muddy Waters. They will media. They will be doing a live stream podcast after Spike Cohen gives his keynote speech. And don't forget dancing and karaoke after it's all said and done. So we're gonna have a little bit of party because we're libertarians and we like to do that. We're not a bunch of stuffy people. No, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have some chit chat, fellowship, and get to know each other. And then come Sunday morning, if you are able to drag your body out of bed, 10 starts at the panel starts at 10:30. The brunch will open at 10, and we will have a discussion, and that is exclusive. That Spike will be leading a discussion with Jimmy Smith and Adam Kokesh, talking about how nobody is immune to our criminal injustice system, and they'll be talking about their experiences with that. And if you want to attend that is a $75 ticket, and it is limited seating. So if you need to get online and get your ticket for that, you again go to bit.ly/BB for Liberty. And those tickets, I think on the 7th, I think that is the last day that you will be able to buy tickets for that particular portion of the event. So we look forward to seeing you guys in Tunica. We look forward to protesting with you in Hernando. We look forward to the fellowship and meeting you and having a lot of fun. And it's so just feels so good to be with people who are like-minded, even if you don't necessarily agree on everything, but just to know that we're in this for everybody. We're in this for everyone to be free, and we're willing to break down the boundaries and find new ways to break boundaries, whether it be through legislation or whatever it is, community activism, voluntarism, however, mutual aid societies. What is it that you're doing? Do you have a unique story? There would be plenty of people with their cameras around willing to live stream and interview you if you want to get caught up. Oh, we have someone cutting hair. Yes, we have a vendor who will be cutting hair at the event too. So if you think you might need your haircut before you want a picture with a wide receiver or a Spike Cohen or whatever, and just didn't quite have time to come, you'll be able to talk to our vendor there for that. So anyway, talk to you guys later. Oh, he's dropping another one in there. All In Consulting is the book sponsor for Freedom. All In Consulting, that's my business. All In Consulting is your public relations publicist company that can help you tell the story of your brand and help to market it in a way that will grow it in your dreams desire. Pull that story out of you in a way that will resonate and help build your passion so that you're excited to tell your story in the way that works with you and for your audience. So if you're ready to jump all in and the stakes are high, you ready to go for it? Contact All In Consulting. So talk to you guys later. Have a good night.